Yo, what's going on everybody? So Boruto episode 118 is finally over with, and this is an episode where there are a few things that I really feel as if could have been done better. Like I do get the idea of having Boruto take basically the entire episode to get his memories back. It really shows you that Boruto's memories are fragmented and it takes a long time for him to put all the pieces back together, because through his interactions and through different things that trigger the memories, everything starts to come back. I was totally okay with that. However, this is one of those instances where, because this was a setup episode, I really feel as if the anime team took the opportunity to really just hammer in the flashbacks. I really feel as if we could have did without some of them. In particular, and I'll start with this one, I really feel as if we probably could have cut the Chocho scene. And I'll explain to you why I think the Chocho scene should have been cut out, okay? Now, while this is about Boruto learning what it means for two people to be in love, because that's something that it looks as if they're trying to make very critical to Konohamaru and Remon's whole relationship, okay? Like, it really feels as if that's what they're trying to kind of hammer in on a very subtle way. However, this is the thing with it, right? So we don't need to see that Boruto is remembering Remon and Konohamaru when Chocho's talking about the movie with two people being in love and she's all in her feelings, somehow she's a sensitive creature, because we have that scene where Boruto is eating the Thunder Burger with Sarada and Mitsuki, and he has that moment where he remembers her there, and then as he's running back he stops by that place that sells the hair clips and he remembers how Remon has the very expensive hair clip and then Konohamaru buys her a really cheap one, which again was a total cock block. But here's the thing, we could have cut the Chocho scene out, and this is what we could have did differently, okay? There are two moments where I feel like the anime could have kind of fleshed out some things that left on the table. So the first thing that the anime could have fleshed out by cutting the Chocho scene is they could have added more to that whole hunt for Boruto, where Boruto is kind of stumbling around. I really feel as if they kind of left something on the table there, because very early on in the episode had that included, and then you just have it kind of end where Boruto kind of falls into the river at that point. I really feel as if watching Boruto be a scared little kid for a little bit and kind of drill that in to where you don't know whether or not he even lost his sense of being as far as what it means to be a ninja. I feel like that could have done better. I feel like maybe they could have taken that Chocho scene out and maybe fleshed out more of Boruto's confrontation with Kankitsu. That could have been something really cool, to see Boruto just dodging more of those attacks and maybe using some ninjutsu at that point, fighting in a way to where he's not necessarily fighting to defeat Kankitsu, but more so to just restrain him. I feel like that could have been something that really helped us out there. Now, another thing is while Kankitsu was using that weird jutsu where those beams are shooting out at Boruto with the intention of taking his memories, if that would have been chakra based, this was something I really wish that Boruto would have known how to do, which is, because he knows some of the Hyuga clan fighting style, it would have been really cool to see him use rotation at that point. Now, I get it, Boruto doesn't have the Byakugan, that's one of the drawbacks for it, but I would think that him just training with Hanabi and training with Hiashi and training with Hinata, especially with Hinata when he was younger, I would think that he would know some of the principles. Maybe not be able to perform the full rotation because again he doesn't have the Byakugan, but I mean it would be cool to see Boruto just incorporate some of that into his own fighting style for defensive purposes. Again, I get why they won't do that, that's just more wishful thinking of my part. Because I was always someone who wanted Boruto to have the Byakugan. Now, with that being said, the other scene I feel like they could have cut the Chocho scene out and then just devoted those minutes to could have been at the very end of the episode. So Konohamaru, as we all know, he's on house arrest. Konohamaru's on his house arrest, and what I find very odd about this is Boruto just shows up after Sarada makes all this fuss about, do you really think it's that easy to just pop in and visit somebody on house arrest? We can't do that. It makes it seem as if there's gonna be all these Anbu stationed outside of Konohamaru's place. It'd have been really cool if maybe we saw Boruto sneak around, or after Boruto and Konohamaru come to the conclusion that they have to go back to the Dai Dai village in order to basically save Remon. It'd have been really cool if we actually saw Boruto and Konohamaru mixed up with some of those Anbu who would have been stationed outside of Konohamaru's house. Like, I really think that could have been something that we could have benefited from, because this was an episode where you wouldn't have been forcing the action. The action was already there. But again, I get why the animators and why the director for this episode decided, okay, we're just gonna make this more of a grounded episode that focuses on Boruto recalling his memories and recalling those bonds that he formed with Remon. And I mean, as somebody who has read Naruto a bunch of times and read Naruto on a weekly basis when it was on Weekly Shonen Jump, I can tell you this feels very reminiscent of some of those chapters that came out, especially in the war arc, where we waited a whole week only to get a whole chapter filled with flashbacks. And so this is kind of what the Boruto anime did to us at this point. Like, I really thought that we would have gotten more, okay? Especially when Naruto drops that bombshell on Konohamaru, like, hey dog, I'm gonna be putting you on house arrest. You really left us no choice here. Is there something you're not telling me? Is there something you can't tell us? And then you have Naruto with his own suspicions. And like, Naruto doesn't say it, but the way he looks at Konohamaru and just the way his eyes are drawn at that point, it's almost as if Naruto's like, look, I can help you if you can give me more information. But I gotta say this, like, Konohamaru doesn't take any of the bait. He doesn't take any of it. Like, when Naruto says, like, you're not the type of person to do something like this and behave so recklessly, you must have had a reason, Konohamaru just eats everything. And I gotta say this, like, the reason why I respect what Konohamaru did there is this is one of those moments where, just as a grown man, okay, and this is like a lesson for some of the younger viewers I have here, right? Like, there's times where you're gonna make a mistake, or there's times where you follow your gut, you screwed up, and now you just gotta eat the consequences of it. It doesn't matter why you did it. It doesn't matter why. At the end of the day, you had a plan, you saw it through, it didn't work out. Like, you can say, well, this is why, and it might change the context of the conversation, but at the end of the day, you still got to pay for stuff that you did, especially in a situation like this. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter that they got a request from that old lady who's Remon's attendant. It doesn't matter. Matter of fact, they weren't even on a mission to begin with. Like, they had a chance meeting with Remon, and when this happens, Konohamaru tells Boruto that this is just a personal mission. This is a personal investigation. We cannot engage. And yet they end up doing the exact same thing. So again, they stepped outside the bounds to begin with. And even Shikamaru points out, he says, look, it sounds as if they had their own countermeasure. It sounds as if they had their own countermeasure to deal with this Soma. We never should have got involved in this. Like, at the end of the day, Naruto and Shikamaru, while it is harsh, they took the right choice. Now, the other thing I thought was pretty interesting is how Konohamaru is sitting out, and you can tell he's thinking about Remon, and he decides to go into this shed that's inside of the Sarutobi compound where he's staying at, okay? And he goes in there and he's got all these scrolls from the third Hokage's library and everything, and he's going through everything. He gets this one moment where you can tell he's really doubting himself. He's really doubting whether or not he's making the right decision. And then he looks at his photo of his grandfather, and he just gets this renewed vigor to continue onward. I thought that was pretty cool. I really thought that was pretty cool. But here's what's interesting. I really wish that when Konohamaru's reading some of these jutsu seals, if we would have actually seen Konohamaru maybe try and use some of them. And what I mean is, it's like, as he's reading the scrolls, maybe because you had that whole moment where an entire night passed, maybe when he discovers the one scroll where he thinks something could be used, maybe if we see him kind of perform the jutsu after it's done, where the jutsu gets performed off panel, I think something like that could have been something that really set up what's about to happen in the next episode, where he uses the jutsu. I mean, they're setting that up. So I mean, this would have been something that, again, if they would have cut that scene out, or maybe cut out some of the flashbacks, we could have got a little more there. One other thing I kind of want to point out, right? One other thing I want to point out, it goes back to the whole thing with the house arrest stuff. Okay, now this is where I also think that the episode left a little bit on the table here, okay? Now, if I'm not mistaken, now there was a filler episode in Naruto Shippuden, and those of you who know my story know I got into the Naruto series via the manga, and I haven't seen every episode in the anime because I didn't particularly care for the anime. And I can say this, I do remember there was a moment where Danzo was on house arrest, and he automatically knew that Sarutobi had Anbu outside. He was aware of them. Like the Anbu are watching him, and Danzo just looks up and looks in their direction. It would have been really cool to see Konohamaru just acknowledge that. Or if we take things a step further, right? So if we go back to the manga, which you guys know I'm way more familiar with, if we go back to when Danzo is approved by the feudal lord of the land of fire to become the 6th Hokage, we have that moment where Naruto's essentially kept on lockdown, where he's not supposed to leave the Hidden Leaf Village. Like Danzo's like, look, Tsunade let this man run free all over the place. I ain't letting none of that happen. And you have that moment where they're spying, right? Like they're legit spying, and Naruto and Konohamaru just use like a sexy jutsu. And when that happens, like they're getting ready to perform it, Kakashi uses the Sharingan, just knocks him out, right? This would have been really, really cool if we would have got a moment like this. This has been really cool if we would have got something where Boruto just goes back to his Boruto the movie days. A little known fact that a lot of people didn't read the Boruto movie novelization, not the manga, but the novelization come out in 2015. But the whole reason why they're in the Hokage office at the beginning of the movie, when Boruto's like, I know 3 changes in chakra nature, and Naruto's just looking at Konohamaru like, what are you teaching my son? The whole reason they're in there is because after Konohamaru uses the scientific ninja tool and kind of blows up that house, after that happens, okay, Boruto thinks it's a really good idea to try and escape by using the sexy jutsu, and that's why they get in trouble. So it'd have been cool to just see kind of like a throwback to that, to where Boruto or Konohamaru just use the sexy jutsu and knock out whoever's spying on them, and then they escape. That'd have been something really cool. Again, this was a moment where you could have added some confrontation, and it didn't necessarily have to be kunai to kunai. It could have been something like this. Like this episode needed a little more external conflict. Like the internal conflict was handled very good. It was handled very good. The whole thing with Boruto and the memories and struggling to regain them, I thought that was done good. I did think that, again, they kind of overstepped it a little bit, but I think that there was too much focus on that and not enough on an external conflict. Like, again, you could have either did it with Boruto being hunted more, or fleshing out the fight with Kankitsu, or having something with Konohamaru and Boruto versus those Anbu, whether it be something like the sexy jutsu or whether it be a brief skirmish. I think that that's something that the episode could have benefited from more. Now, I'm not gonna say it's a bad episode, but I will say it's an episode that underwhelmed. I felt like there was a lot of good stuff that could have been done but was left on the table. Again, this was a setup episode. They're setting it up for what's inevitably going to be the conclusion in the next episodes. I mean, again, I get why they did it. I'm just a little disappointed they left as much stuff on the table as they did. But what I want to know from you guys, okay, what I really want to know from you guys is, what are your particular thoughts about the whole idea that Boruto needs a whole episode in order to gain back his memories? And then as a final question to you guys, I really want to know, what are your thoughts? What are your particular thoughts about the Konohamaru and Remon relationship? Because I really feel as if what they're going to be building up to in the next episode is Konohamaru's going to save her. Konohamaru's clearly got feelings for her, but it's going to be revealed that Kankitsu was basically possessed by this Soma creature. He's going to revert back to the young boy who Remon knew, okay? And she's going to end up falling for him. And because Konohamaru cares about her, Konohamaru's gonna let her go. I really feel as if they're setting us up for a cheesy ending like that. I really feel like that's something they're doing. I guess I shouldn't say cheesy, but more so cliche. But I want to know what you guys think about that. Now, before we get out of here, you guys hit the required number of likes on that Itachi and Kisame video. So I am gonna be working on a what if Itachi was discovered as a spy, or what if Itachi was betrayed by the Kasuke. I haven't come up with the title yet, but I am gonna be doing that video. I did say that I was gonna try and get animation for it, but this is the thing on that. Like, the guy that does my animation cutscenes is actually taking a break right now, so this what if is not gonna have animation cutscenes in it. So just want to let you guys know that ahead of time. But as always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. Have an awesome day, guys.